Please welcome Renee Elise Goldsberry.
Renee Elise Goldsberry.
And we are thrilled, couldn't be more excited to welcome you tonight to the Zoom where it happens. How many times have you heard that in the last
just
7?
A few, Leslie, just a few. We're just 18 days away from the most important election of our lifetime, and we need everyone in this fight.
And to be clear, it is a fight, right?
Yes, but we're all here together, and together we are powerful.
That's right. The stakes are as high as a fight. And in this fight, countless lives are on the line.
215,000 people have lost their lives. More than 100,000 small businesses have closed for good. People are wondering how they're going to pay rent and put food on the table, including so many members of the theater family.
You know, the good news is, when it comes to making things better, we are not helpless. Huh? Make a difference, and we don't have time to wait. The clock is ticking on this election, and we need to use every single minute we have to get out the vote, to use our voices.
Because what we do over the next 18 days will set the stage for our country for the next 4 years and beyond. Will America be defined by fear and division, or hope and unity?
Will we allow the forces of hate and bigotry to triumph, or will we stand up for what's right?
Will chaos and cruelty continue to be our story, or will we fight back for justice, equality, and opportunity for all?
And let's be clear, this election isn't about going back in time. It's not about going back to a time before COVID-19. It's not even about going back to a time before Donald Trump was president.
No, it is about taking the reality of what we have survived and moving forward, deciding with our vote who we choose to be.
And that starts with electing Joe Biden to the White House. A vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is a vote to get our economy back on track, to restore the soul of our nation.
And yes, voting for Kamala Harris is a vote to include women in the sequel. The snap of this finger doesn't make that happen, y'all. Work means vote. Vote for women. Vote.
That is why the support from everyone watching tonight is so important and appreciated. Your generous donations are fueling this fight and helping elect Joe and Kamala and Democrats all across this country.
What are your dollars doing? They are funding everything from digital organizing for every state and door knocking, literature drops in states like Florida, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania.
Critical research, polling, TV, radio, and digital ads, of course, but to make sure that we reach as many voters as possible, as well as critical voter protection programs to fight back against Republican voter suppression so that every single vote is counted, and fueling the on-the-ground operations that are turning out voters for Democratic candidates up and down the ballot in 47 states, 47.
So thank you, guys. You know how many we are right now? We are over 100,000 supporters just on here tonight. 100,000, Leslie, are joining this Hamilton family tonight, and you are making this possible. Thank you so much. We have such an exciting night, and it is my challenge right now to introduce you in just a few words to someone whose greatness deserves a dissertation, okay? So this is what I got tonight, okay? If Hamilton was the Wizard of Oz, this is the man standing behind the scenes, handing out the brain, the heart, and courage for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, our director and one of my dearest friends, Tommy Kail.
Hello, Renee. That was nice, and people heard it. Can't say these things. I think we might be on the air.
I worked on that.
You worked on it very well, and you took all of the edits that I gave you, so I really appreciate that. Thank you both. I'm so pleased to be here, and just to let folks know what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get to know some of the people that made this show on stage, and some of the creative team is also here. I think we have 26, 27 members of that original company. A few can't be here, but so many of us are, and we're going to try to take questions that you sent in. So over 100,000 donors. That's a lot of donors. And we had 1,500 questions from over 45 states represented, and 212 of them were about Jonathan Groff's spit. So I'm going to answer it right now. Yes, every night. I can hear you laughing, America, because it's true. So what I want to do is take you to our first group of folks and introduce them, and then we can take some of those questions that you asked. Sometimes I lied at some things. Sometimes I made things up and said it was your name. You're never going to know. But I'm really excited to be here and to get this opportunity all together collectively for you to start to see what it might have been like making the show, some of the things we've been doing since the show, what we think the show is about, what the show meant to us, because you've been so effusive in what it's meant to you. So I'm ready for that first group of talent, so they can move me around in a Zoom. Renee, Leslie, bye.
Bye.
Hello. Oh, hey.
Oh, look at this group.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Look at this
Hey.
group.
Hi.
So what I'd love to do is just let everybody kind of go through and just say hello, say their name, and then I'm gonna get into the questions.
Cool.
Ari, you want to start? Ari.
Yeah. What's good, y'all? I'm Ariana DeBose, fondly known as Ari, or hashtag the bullet, or woman 3. And yeah, fam, real life. Mwah.
Hey, I'm Sidney James Harcourt, also known as M5 or maybe James Reynolds if you're nasty. And thanks for being here and, you know, being part of this and voting and listening and doing something.
Hi, might as well go. My name is John Rua. Yeah, I got shot in the play. My name is Charles Lee, Man 1. I'm also a Colombian American and very proud of all that comes with it. And I'm very happy to be here and share time with you guys.
Clem.
Okay, I'm Stephanie Clemens. I'm the associate choreographer of Hamilton the musical. I was also an original cast member, and I'm just starstruck to see you, America. My heart is so full. I'm so excited to be here with you all.
Black.
Hi.
Thane.
Hi.
Go, Thane.
Hi. Thing. Thing. Hi, everybody. I'm Thane Jasperson. I play Samuel Seabury. So, you know, ahead of time, I was able to tell the world, you know, to heed not the rabble. You know, heed not the rabble, but listen to the good folk that are coming in now. You know, that's what I'm saying.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Lockamore. I am the music director of the show and the orchestrator, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you all for tuning in and to being a part of this. This is awesome.
And I'm Leslie. We just met briefly.
Leslie, still here. Ari, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Hello,
So
Ari.
ready.
Oh, okay. We're going real calm. So, Ari, you mentioned the bullet.
Yeah.
The internet has a lot of questions about the bullet. And I was scouring the internet. And we have a question from Lily in South Carolina. And Lily says, how did you feel about playing the bullet? How did you ever feel, that the role was a secret? And how do you feel about the new awareness around you? By the way, love you, SM, and your hair is awesome. That was Lily in South Carolina. So there's a lot of bullet theories that came out once the movie came out. Can you speak to those and what it was like to be inside the bullet?
Well, first of all, I'm going to apologize for the sirens where I am. There might be a lot of those. But we are, you know, it's a very important time. Thank you for the question, dear friend. And I'm overwhelmed by the interest that hashtag the bullet has garnered. I mean, when I was doing the show, I was just doing my gig, right? Like connecting dots for myself, you know, trying to do the choreography right, which is very challenging. Stephanie can attest to that. And, you know, I was just, you know, trying to do my part and support what the ensemble is. We're support, right? And what I loved about doing the show was that it allowed the ensemble to be an integral part to moving the plot forward. So that's what I was really thinking of doing. And because I'm an actor, I'm also like, cool. So how could I make this cool for myself? Like, what if I'm an angel? So I just started playing it. I didn't really ask for permission. And I'm pretty sure Tommy didn't really know what I was talking about for a very, very long time. But I love that, you know, I created this little hashtag, started using it. And then when the movie came out, more people got to see the show, that, you know, once they got to that iconic moment during the duel, that the bullet meant something more to them. Yeah, so it's overwhelming because like a little small decision that you made, you know, ended up becoming this bigger thing that it may not have initially meant, it wasn't meant to be that. But it is. And that's why that's why I always tell people, like, there are no small parts, right? If you do your job and you do it well and you love what you do, then that ultimately comes through. And it was really just an honor to help tell the story. I just found another way to tell it. Did that answer the question?
It did. Lily's very happy somewhere. Thank you, Ari. Clem, I'm coming to you. You wore many hats and did many things on this show. And I have a very distinct memory of you, I believe it was downtown at the Public Theater, having to go on. You were a swing, and I want you to talk a little about what it takes to prepare yourself, what it means to be a swing. A lot of the questions were about that, you know, and I feel like there's a lot of people out there that I think are listening who are thinking about the different ways that they can maybe find a place in the performing arts. I remember you with a dislocated shoulder during Yorktown. So you also have to be a complete warrior to do it. But can you talk about how you got your brain to that place, how you were able to develop it, and do all those things?
Yes, I would love to. It's funny that this is the question that you're asking me, because at 5:30, I met with a high school senior, and I joined her for her senior project on swinging Broadway musicals. So I actually have just answered a lot of questions on this. And the number one thing that she really was interested in was, how do you get involved in swinging? And honestly, I didn't intend on being a swing. So my first swing job was with you, Tommy Kail, and also Lynn and Andy and Lack in the Heights on Broadway. And I had no idea what I was doing. And thankfully I was working with Michael Balderrama, who's like the king of Broadway, and he taught me everything I know. And ultimately the thing that I learned is that all the schooling I had, I was really big into science, and I did a double major in college in science, and all the organizational skills that I used for my science major and all of those classes went into swinging. Because what I realized is that, yes, in swinging, I was using my talent as a dancer and a singer, but really it was about organizing information and making sure that I could recall it quickly, and recall it in a way that the audience didn't know, and that my friends on stage trusted me. And sometimes you feel like you don't trust yourself, and you just have to put your feet in front, one foot in front of the other. And it was a beautiful experience, and I got to learn a lot. And I have loads of swing stories that I shared with this high school friend that I met this evening. But the number one story that I'll share with you was in the Heights, backstage downtown. My first time going on for Woman 3, that's Asmaret Gebra Mikkel, for anyone who knows the show. And I was singing this 4-part harmony I had never sung in front of anyone. Meanwhile, I was just practicing it by myself as a swing backstage. And I go to sing it, and I'm facing the walls, very small space backstage. I'm like facing the wall because I'd never heard anyone else sing. And Lin-Manuel Miranda grabs my shoulder and pulls me in. And apparently, unbeknownst to me at this moment in the show, the 4 people who were backstage, Eliseo Roman, sickest voice ever, Janet DeCall, also sickest voice ever, and Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the play, all sing their 4 separate parts of the harmony. And I was meant to fill in the alto part, and I had never sung it with anyone. And I was terrified, forehead to forehead with Lynn. And it was like, I feel like I got my sea legs that day. I was like, okay, if I could live through this swing moment with a microphone on, I could live through any moment. And so, you know, here I am, however many blah, blah, blah years later, just living to tell the tale, and getting to swing Hamilton was one of the gifts of my career for sure. And, you know, I'm so grateful for that experience.
Eliseo, sick voice, Janet, sick voice, Lynn wrote the play. We know what you think about Lynn's voice. We get you, Steph. We get you that. I'm going to go to
How many compliments
Alex
could you
next.
give one person?
Yeah, seriously, this whole thing is a little too much for me, the last 5 to 12 years. Lackamore, I'm coming to you. So Alex, I have a question. Who is your favorite composer? This is from LMM in the question is actually from Jill in Ohio, which is about your collaboration with Lin. Do you and Lin ever disagree? And have you ever gotten pissed off at each other? And I would like to say, I have no comment on this, but I'd love to hear it from you. And what do you got?
That's a great question. I would say, fortunately, we've never got into arguments about arrangements because at the end of the day, I'm serving the composer, right? My job is to try to channel his music and present it in a certain way. So he will always have the last say. And one of the things I kind of learned, fortunately, early on in my career is that as an arranger, you have to be not precious about your ideas. And you have to be able to walk in and present something. And if it's not ringing true to the composer or to the director or the choreographer or anyone else in the room, you have to be willing to just scrap what you've worked on, no matter how many months you might have spent, how many days, how many hours, throw it away and start anew because you're trying to serve another story. So fortunately, I've been able to kind of back down when I've needed to. And if I'm passionate about a certain idea, yes, I will kind of try to double down and say, no, I really think this will work because X, Y, Z. But you kind of read the room and you kind of figure that out and know when it's worth pushing something or whether it's, you should just kind of cut your losses and try to come up with a different way of saying something. But one of the things I love about my relationship with Lin, and this has just kind of been cultivated over years of working together, is that we're able to kind of finish each other's sentences and try to be able to get one idea and bounce it back and forth. We just did a project recently where there was a moment that needed a musical transition, and I composed some music. And then it needed a melody. So then Lin, in 20 minutes, came up with something really amazing that I love. I'm like, that's great. And then I was able to take that melody that he had just created and put it in another part of the project that didn't have a vocal line before. So things were just kind of going back and forth with that kind of that synergy, that ball just bouncing back and forth. So I love when things like that happen. And that to me is, that's collaboration at its most fun, when you get to work on something meaningful with someone that you love and admire. So that's I'm sorry that the answer is not more fun in terms of arguments and disagreements. So it's actually been a very happy relationship, and I'm thankful.
Great. Okay, good. I'm going to keep it moving because apparently we got a lot to do. So Sydney, can you talk to me about when you first saw the film? There's a film version of Hamilton that apparently came out on Disney Plus. Which I heard about.
What?
Can you? Yeah, you should. If you saw it, I would love to know. Yep, looks like lots of people want to know what your reaction to it was, having been inside the show and then seeing the show for the first time.
Wow. It was like being teleported back in a time machine to being backstage and the excitement of the show getting ready to start, and then how you sort of like held your breath through the whole performance in a way. At least your like artistic, like perfectionist breath. You were like, what am I gonna nail today? What am I gonna screw up today? But there's nothing to screw up when you're watching the film. You get to experience this thing. And I got to watch the original cast early on because I was swung out for a few performances for my understudy duties. And it had a similar feeling, which was just this like, oh, wow, I didn't know it was like this. And the film did that to me in the sense that, I spoke about this before to you, but that moment when, Pippa is in there at the end of the show, and then she steps away, and then there's like Lin's face coming into focus, and then Leslie's passing him. You can't experience that kind of thing except for in the film. And it rocked me. It made me see the show new all over again, and it gave me something to want to watch multiple times to see what I could catch, to see what you guys caught. And And I don't know, it just left me with this feeling after I was watching that, you know, this gift had been given to people, that it was so hard to see the show. It was so hard, and people desperately wanted to see it, and now everyone can. And that afterwards was the biggest thing, like, whoa, everyone can watch this now, and let's see what happens now.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thane, coming for you. Not coming for you like that. Can you talk about how to keep a show fresh? You've been doing the show for, you know, with a nice long run. And what is it like to be in it? And how do you prepare yourself for that? And is there something that you can share with some of the folks out there right now?
Yeah, you know, it's crazy that I was fortunate to be able to be a part of the lab in 2014 in January. And I remember walking in, first of all, thinking, wow, they want me to be in this. I was stoked. And I couldn't even comprehend that, first of all, but I was super stoked to be in that room. And walking in and then seeing humans like Washington and Burr being played by men of color and not needing to see it for what they appear to be, that what we've always seen George Washington to look like. And right there was the first thing that I remember thinking, this is awesome, because here we are representing an idea of what America needs to be, what America should be, how we can see humans as human, with passion, with zeal, with zest for life, and how they're going to move forward and portray these characters. And I just thought, this is epic. This is going to be epic. I left the show. I remember leaving that first lab singing, you know, I was like, ooh, I do. I was singing that for some reason, Pippa. I don't know why. But it's so good. Every song was so good. And Lin would leave at lunchtime. He would come back with a new song and be like, okay, everybody, here's the song. Here's the lyrics. Learn it. Go. And it was so amazing to see the whole creation unfolding and building forward. And every night when you step on that stage and you feel the energy of the crowd, you feel the excitement, you feel their desire to grasp the knowledge and for their love of history and of theater and of what we are portraying, and how we have been in the show able to push forward the ideas of America and how America can be and how it was formed and what we can continue as our path, has been something that it's hard to leave, because it's important. It feels important, and it doesn't feel like you're just up there telling a fun story, which is great, but we're up there telling something important, and we are reaching out to so many types of humans who need to see something, who need to see themselves up there on the stage, who need to feel it. And you know, when you feel that importance, it's hard to leave. I don't know how to leave. So if you know, tell me, because I'm still there. When we come back, I'll still be there, folks.
We're very lucky. We feel very lucky. Thank you. John Rua, good sir. So John, you talked about Charles playing Charles Lee, which you did every night, and you also went on as Hamilton on the other side of that. So you, again, as we talk about, there's so many folks in this company who are able to hold these opposing things simultaneously in their brains. What is that experience like for you as someone who, you're one of the most rigorous and dedicated performers that I know? You approach everything, you know, so full out. The experience of finding yourself on the other side of where you usually are, which is something that I think obviously can speak to some other stuff. How is that for you? How do you stay right where you are and not slip in and out?
You just made me remember. I think it affirmed in me a really deep knowing that only can be realized to that depth in the circumstances I was in. Like you said, without going in and out, it's just complete trust and complete belief in the work that you all put together, the creatives, in addition to the work that I did on my own. It was a roller coaster of a ride the majority of the time. So understudy rehearsals, and you know, they were scarce in availability of what you could do. So a lot of it was the work that you applied in yourself. And I remember the first time I went on, I found out I think like 3 hours before, and then Steffi, of course, took care of me. And I remember coming out, and you know, Alexander Hamilton. But you come out, and Lin, you know, we hear the world shake. You came out and there wasn't one sound. There was nothing. It was just emptiness. And that's the moment I said, all right, we're about to do this. Like, there was nothing in me that was wavered. If anything, I said, this is what I'm here to do. And I'm just going to bring everything that exists in me for every moment that you've noticed, Tommy, of dedication and passion, and just live in it and sort of trust in the moment. So I would say that it was some of my favorite moments were as Hamilton, because they were so spread out, but it really felt like I was living the life. I mean, to be able to live that span of a life, to be able to live all of the things that he went through, to be able to encounter that, to go from life to death. And actually I'm alive afterwards, right? So I'm like, this is amazing, right? So this is, to me, the heightened stakes of that moment, especially the first year, going on opposite of Leslie, going on opposite of all these people, I just sort of let complete abandonment. And they were some of the most, I was so emotional. A lot of people in the cast probably noticed afterwards how emotional I was, because I was just going. I was going full throttle, and I knew that experience was going to be singular. And I also got to experience things that would never be able to be experienced in that form, because of the circumstances that they were in. So I would say, to answer your original question, it was invigorating, it was scary, it was exciting, it was affirming, and I will never, ever, ever forget it. And it will inform the way I continue to realize what I want my future to be.
Thank you, sir. Leslie, we'll close it out with you, sir. I have a question from Teresa in New Jersey. The question is, how did you approach bringing humanity and connection to a character whose place in history is defined solely by his biggest mistake?
I had a lot of help, you know. I thought that Lin treated him with such respect. You know, I tell people Lin loved him first. You don't write a character a song like Wait For It or Dear Theodosia. You know, you don't give a character moments like that if you don't love them first. So Lin was my way in, and you know, I guess it just was like transferred. His love for Burr and this world was transferred over to me. Good question, though. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, group. I think that that wraps it up for this segment. I will see you backstage in a Zoom room soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your questions too on it. All right, coming up to the next group. Oh, hey, Renee. Hi, everybody. Look at this group. Look at this group. I'm gonna start with Sasha, and you can kind of say your what's up then, and then go into the question if that's cool, and so I can keep more time for you in that way. Sasha, I'm gonna come to you first if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Sasha,
am I supposed to introduce myself now?
You can say anything you want. It's your show. We're all just living.
Hi, I'm Sasha.
I realized I was inefficient last time.
We're a little zany right now. Hi. Sasha Hutchings, original Broadway cast. You know that. That's why you're here. Hi.
Sash, the question is, there's a lot of conversation, a lot of the questions about what happens on stage, and one of the things we've all talked about, and I know you've spoken about as well, is how you use your voice off stage. So I wanted to talk to you in your Hamilton life and your post-Hamilton life. Based on a lot of these questions, a lot of people are interested in how you use your voice, what you stay focused on, how you connect to your community and your network. I know that you have a new show with Nick Walker, Chaos Twins, which is very good. And so, how are you finding this opportunity to connect with your community and how it's changed, you know, since you've been in the show?
Thank you for that amazing plug. Yes, I do have a show on BroadwayWorld.com called The Chaos Twins with Nick Walker, who is also a Broadway Hamilton alum, Hamilton fan. It is really incredibly important for me to sort of, I guess when we were in the show together, I think that this show inspires this group of people, this group of humans really inspires you to get involved and really just dream big about what's possible when you really put your mind to it with a group of like-minded individuals, or even individuals you don't always agree with, but you're working towards a common goal. And I'm a huge advocate of working with what's in your hand and not feeling like you have to do this incredibly large, grand gesture when you're trying to get involved, when you're trying to make a difference, but really looking at where are you engaged in your community? What does it mean to you? What do you like to do? What are you good at? For me, that has been centered around arts education. And it really just started with me talking to people in my network and in my community about how can I get involved? How can I put my hands on something? 2016, that election year, that was a really big year for me to want, and I mean, everything that was going on with Black Lives Matter that year, I wanted to put my hands on something. And I have found my way to organizations like the Arthur Miller Foundation and Epic Theater Ensemble. There are groups that I work with that really hands-on deal with students and helping them find their voice through theater programs. And that is me. That is something that I individually do. I want to say with Chaos Twins and that platform, what Nick and I really like to do is interview you, our friends. A lot of people who are on this stream right now have been on the show, and I'm sure more of you will be on later, but really talking about, as an artist, as a person in the world, how do you get involved? And I really think that is different for everyone, but it all counts. And so it's not about how do you get to the biggest stage ever to make a difference. It's really like, how do you walk to your neighbor's house and say, what are you working on and how can I help you? Or how can I get involved in my local theater group or my local soup kitchen or my local voting, advocacy group? How do you do those things that are next door to you, not necessarily on some grand stage? And really, it's as simple as a conversation with the person next to you. We're stuck online right now, so that's kind of hard, but it's a text. It's a text message to a friend. It's an email to an organization that's in your area. And I really believe it just starts with that one step. It's how it started with me, and it's really blossomed into a lot of cool things.
Thank you. Austin.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How are you? I'm great.
I'm good, thanks. I have a question. This is Jennifer from Michigan, which is, what advice would you give your 10-year-old self?
My 10-year-old self. Oh, wow. I think that I was definitely always somebody who wanted to be very high achieving, and I think that part of that is just like who I was as a person. I think part of that is also systemic. I think that young Black children have a lot of pressure on themselves to perform, I think, at a rate that's higher than or to exceed their peers. I think because very early on, we know that we have to work twice as hard to get half as much. So I think I would have just kind of relieved myself of some of that pressure. Yeah, I would have, said to like, chill out just a little bit.
Chill out.
Chill out. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Andy Blankenbuehler. Andy Blankenbuehler. Very festive over there, Andy. So Andy, this is a question Leah from Texas asks. She says, I have recently mastered the art of guns and ships, and my 14-year-old son is not impressed. How do I handle this? And this made me think you have kids who like to come see the shows and have lots of thoughts. So just want to talk about what it's like to have that interaction, to have your kids who, 5 years on now from who they were when they first would come to see it, and what it's like experiencing it and sharing it with them, knowing how much they inform your work.
They inform my work all the time, and they express their opinions all the time and give me notes all the time. So it's a little tough at home sometimes. But they're both actually really intuitive, and they have really great things to say. And the thing that's most important to me is making the work at home. I work at home mostly. And so they're around it all the time. And so I'm giving my heart to something in such a big way, but they feel partnership in it. They feel that when they're sitting there on opening night, it's part of their experience as well. They know it. They know the lyrics. They know the steps that I struggled on. And I think that it means a lot to them. And for me, especially a show Hamilton. I mean, to me, when people used to say, what do you think Hamilton's about? And I would say, it's about knowing what's most important in life and fighting for it with everything that you have. And for me, that's very much about family. And so there are so many moments in the show that are about the understanding of the people around you, the understanding of the obstacles, and the victories that you share with the people around you. So it's really a wonderful thing to me to be able to share that with them. Both my kids are really, really creative, and so it means a lot that they actually can be artistic partners for me. And they're both really vocal, maybe too much vocal sometimes, but they're really great partners to have. And then one last thing I'll say is that, you know, I just said to Chris Jackson when we were in our Zoom room to the side that our son Luca was born on the first preview of In the Heights. And this week he has his high school applications due. Luca's 13 and Sophia is 11. And what's really great is in this thickest part of my career, working on great stuff like Hamilton, they express opinions that are like adult opinions. And I think it's great that we look to our kids and we expect a lot out of them, and we treat them like adults, and we treat them like they can rise to the challenge, because that's really what Hamilton is about. It's about rising to challenges, to know that there's something better ahead of us.
Thank you, sir. Javier.
Yes.
Hello, sir. So Javi, you, oh my God, that smile. Javi, you were performing once a week when we were downtown at the Public, and then also on Broadway in our first week on Broadway in 2015, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. We got a call that we were going to have a visitor to the show. We started performance on July 13th, 2015, and that Saturday, we heard that President Obama was going to be coming. Which was a day you were scheduled to perform. Can you talk about that moment for you getting the call? And then I realize this is probably its own Zoom, so forgive me for also wanting a precise and concise answer. But can you talk about what that moment meant to you and what it was like getting that call?
Yes, absolutely. I remember I was on my way to the theater. I was waiting for the train when you called and asked if I could get to the theater early. And so I was already on my way. But I spent that whole train ride thinking I did something wrong. I was like, oh crap, what did I forget? I was like, this is it, I'm in trouble. And I walked into the theater and you and Lynn are sitting in the front of the house. And I walked up and I remember very clearly that you were explaining that the president was coming. And on that particular date and show that I was going to be supposedly doing my first performance. And in my brain, I'm saying, okay, I'm just not going to do that one, and like I'll just do two, or maybe they'll give me another date or whatever. And I know that you said that I was going to do the show, but I didn't hear it. It didn't process. And I remember saying, what? Because I didn't think I heard you correctly. And Lynn said, and you're going to be great. And it sunk in. And I remember you guys gave me like a 5 or 10 minute break so I could go into some corner and freak out by myself. And then I came back to a meeting with all of you, and you announced it to the cast, and I mean, I was elated. I was absolutely elated. How many times in our life do we get to perform for the President of the United States, let alone Obama? And I actually slept well the night before. I got a full night's sleep. I showed up. I proved to the police that I was who I was, because they didn't believe that I was in the show. I had a program in my ID. And I got in and did that was like one of the more thrilling performances of my entire life. And I mean, I'll never forget that the audience response at just the start of the show with the president in the house, and it was absolutely fire, that entire performance. And I did not sleep that night. That night I stayed up all night in bed trying to replay what happened, because it was just about, there was no time to think about anything else other than telling the story, not just to the President of the United States, but this was the first time Lynn was sitting out to watch the show for the Broadway production. And it was absolutely my job to make sure he got that story, and the rest of the paying audience too. It wasn't time to really, have it be about what I felt. It was about everybody else. And so, it's so alive in my memory still, every second. Even like meeting him at intermission when we dropped the fire curtain and getting to shake his hand and look him in the eye and hear his voice. And I think I was clutching onto you, Renee, for dear life in that moment. but it, that's just what it was. It was absolutely unforgettable.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you just painted a picture of a lot of things that I forgot that I was in that story. I was like, what happens next? What happens next? Did he come to the show? Ephraim, sir.
Yes,
I have
sir.
a question from Stephanie, also Michigan. So just Michigan really stepping up here. Ephraim, which line from any Hamilton song seems to take on even more relevance now than it was first written or when you first heard it?
Oh, wow. I never thought of that before, but just now in this moment, the line, history has its eyes on you, spoke very loudly. And I think right now, this might be the most pressing time, and all the eyes of our ancestors and our unborn children and our, the people still alive and the kids that are watching us, they're watching, what are we gonna do right now? How are you gonna show up? How are you gonna vote? How are you gonna advocate for other people? How are you gonna love your neighbor even though they disagree with you? So I hope people recognize the fact that history has literally the biggest eye with a telescope and everything else on it right now in this moment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Ephraim. Hey.
That's just off the top. Come on.
That's off the dome,
Emmy.
Oh no! You didn't even go after that. Go to the next group.
Emmy.
Yes, Thomas Cale. Yes, I'm here.
This question is from T. Cale in New York, Umbrella Cat. The question is from Martin in the great state of California, who said, I saw you play Angelica Schuyler in San Francisco, and you were fantastic. Can you talk about what it's like to take over roles, knowing that you were in the original Broadway company and also opened the Chicago company? You opened 3 different companies of Hamilton, and then played Angelica, Umbrella Academy, and then played Angelica in San Francisco. Can you talk about that progression and how that was for you, and how to make the role your own?
To start, I got to spend a year watching the unbelievable Renee, and stop, it's true. It's true. I did. And her talent is so much more than her singing and her acting. It comes out of every pore of her body, and it is in her spirit and in her soul. And I think that was my biggest takeaway, what she brought to the building every day, and watching how she cared for people and how she loved for our cast, and how she was so dedicated and diligent and just always prepared, and then she would open her mouth and those notes would just fall out. And so it was honestly a masterclass every day, getting to learn from her and watch her, and then getting to go to Chicago, and then getting to understudy Karen Olivo, which was another unbelievable performer. And so I feel like I got to kind of stand in 2 footsteps behind these 2 unbelievable women that kind of forged the way of Angelica Schuyler, and then to kind of find a medium of the 2 of them, and then kind of bring myself to the role as best that I could. I think every day that I took the stage in Chicago and in Los Angeles, I feel like I brought a little bit of Renee and a little bit of Karen, because I learned from them, and my performance wouldn't be what it was without having spent so much time with them, and on the stage, but also off, and getting to know them as humans and as women and as the artists that they are, and the spirits that they are. And so I still carry them with me. And when I see videos of the show of when people tag me on Instagram in videos, I see things that I pulled from Renee. Sorry, I stole it. And I see things that I pulled from Karen. Thanks, girl. But I couldn't have asked for better women to kind of follow and kind of step into one of each of their shoes.
Well, Renee, I'm not going to ask you to go now. I'm going to go to Chris Jackson.
Yeah, you gotta, let me just say one thing.
Really?
Can I just say one thing? I know we're short on time, but I just want to say you are a genius in your own right. Thank you for giving us that shout out for the answer. I just want to say, when people see me on the street, they say I'm really good at in the Umbrella Academy. And I always say, thank you.
That's amazing.
I am done.
Wow.
That's love. That's
man.
love.
See, oh, we're all just
What a
sharing each
giver.
other's stories. We're all just.
Yeah, Emmy just giving her heart, and Renee just taking the work.
That just made me sweat. I'm sweating.
Chris Jackson, and then we'll let Renee close this out. Chris, this is a question from Megan in Washington State.
Make it a softball.
She said,
please.
Coming at you. You're ready.
Okay. Yeah.
Megan says, I'm a music teacher. What words of encouragement would you offer our performing arts students who are missing their rehearsal and their performances so much during this difficult time?
You don't need a class to work on your craft. You don't need an audience to validate your work or to validate your passion. You don't need a conductor to want to learn 50 new pieces of music. You don't need anything other than the inspiration that is in your heart and the necessity of expressing that. My best singing is in the shower. My best singing is in my car. My best singing is between my God and me. It's where it's who it comes from and who it goes back to. You tell those kids to want it and want it more than they ever wanted it in their lives. And the vacuum of silence is an illusion that if it is meant to be sung, you should sing it. If it is meant to be played, you should play it. The people that we study, the people that we revere, they didn't have someone going before them. They had to forge a new path because it was the only thing that they knew they could do. It was the only way that they could loose whatever thing they needed loosed, whatever thing they needed to be released. So, I mean, you're staring at a screen full of people who didn't have any option but to do exactly what it is that they're doing. That had to feel the art through them as essential as air, or they would die. And so with all of the things that are going on, with all of the lack, with all of the things that are different, if we couldn't sing, if we couldn't dance, if we couldn't speak, we would find a way to express ourselves. We would find, there's a word that I always go back, like if I can't raise my voice in praise, the rocks will cry out, right? You've got to need it. You've got to want it. It's got to be as essential as air. And while I'm goofing off and playing and enjoying all of these things, I look at every single person on the screen and know that the only reason why we're sitting here right now is because we didn't have everything that we needed, so we found a way to get there. We didn't have the perfect teacher or the perfect concert or the perfect piece of music. Our instruments weren't perfect. Our voices were lacking in what we thought they should be. But we found a way because we had to do it. And Hamilton's all about finding a way. And in the literal collection of these people, we had to do this. And on a Sunday afternoon, when we've done 7 shows for 40 weeks and our bodies hurt and our brains are broken, we found a way to do it because it was the only thing that we could do. It was the only thing that was going to bring release and relief and edify every moment that we had ever spent invested in trying and wanting and then finding a way to do. So you want to inspire the kids, just hold up a mirror and say, here you go. This is all you need. Whatever is inside you that needs finding, you will find it through this moment. And if you commit to it, it can change your life.
And okay, Christopher Jackson.
You better preach, George Washington.
Hallelujah.
Follow that, Nene.
Hallelujah.
Follow that. I love all y'all. Vote Biden 2020.
And he's out. And he decides.
Renee.
Biden Harris. By the way.
Renee.
Yes. Yes.
Can you answer a little one for us, and then we'll keep it moving so some of these folks can go to bed before midnight. So Renee, we've heard a lot of in the conversation, a lot of the questions were about education in the relationship to how some of the folks on stage got to where they are, about the work that can be done from stage, giving back. Can you talk about the EduHam program? I know it's something that's really close to your heart. You've been a big advocate and a big part of it, and just talk about what it's meant to you, and also some of the work that it's been doing over the last 4 or 5 years.
I can, Tommy Kail. I can. Let me tell you, if the extent of my involvement in Hamilton was just watching it from my basement on Disney Plus, I would be forever praising God. So my mind is constantly blown because I get to not only be a part of the success of the show, but I get to stand with everybody that's on this Zoom and everybody that's in this cast and use the success of the show to stand with all of you and dream up ways to use this success. Being here tonight for this rally is doing that, and EduHam is another one. EduHam is Hamilton's educational arm. I think it was dreamed up by Luis Miranda and Jeffrey Seller. It through the Gilder Lehrman Institute, and the whole idea of it is to give kids a window into learning about this era in history where they didn't see themselves before. They get to be Lin, okay? And they get to use their voice to make historical figures come to life. It's beautiful. And now, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, EduHam programs also highlight the untold voices in this period. So students get to discover Phyllis Wheatley and Benjamin Banneker, along with Angelica Schuyler and Thomas Jefferson. It is free programming through gilderlehrman.org. And it is, like Sasha was saying earlier, just another opportunity for us to use the success of the show to really do something that's even bigger than any piece of theater. It's just to do good in the world, to stand together and do good in the world. So it's a dream come true for us. And I encourage you to go there and find it.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
Thank you to this group. What a fantastic group of questions and just remarkable answers. So thank you all. Here we are. All right, we're in our final flight. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Oh, he's here. Great. I didn't get the text. Let the games begin. Look at that face. Jeffrey Seller, I'd love to start with you and wish you a happy birthday on this day.
Hey!
We're very happy with you.
Happy birthday!
Best birthday party ever.
It's a pretty good one. So, Jeffrey, you've been a theater producer for a few minutes now. You've been around new musicals. It's been very central to your work with Jonathan Larson and Rent, Avenue Q, Lynn's first show in the Heights. I wanted to talk to you about those initial moments, and that initial moment when you first encountered Lynn's music live. There was a concert that we did at Lincoln's Jazz at Lincoln Center in January of 2012, and you were in the audience. It was the first time that any audience had heard more than one song. Lots of people at that point had heard that thing he did at the White House. But can you talk about your experience of being in that particular room on that particular night?
Can I, wonder, what is it like to be struck by a bolt of lightning? I don't know what it's like to be struck by a bolt of lightning, but I know what it's like to be struck by something so rhythmic, so melodic, so visceral that it makes my body shake. Because the truth of it is that I have to produce with my body. I produce if my body reacts in a way that tells me I must do it. My head will start working later, but my whole career has been about how do I react physically? How did I react physically when I experienced Jonathan Larson's Tick, Tick, Boom the first time that made me write him the next day and say, I want to produce your musicals, which led to Rent? How did it make me feel the first time that I heard Bobby Lopez and Jeffrey Mark's song, If You Were Gay at Avenue Q? And those are the visceral moments that are like being present for the birth of a child. And that's what makes my job so pleasurable and rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. This group. Morgan.
Yeah.
Hello, Morgan. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. I'm just hosting a casual Zoom with you. I'd love to see if you had some stuff you could share with us about Ham for Change, which is an organization that a lot of the folks on this call and beyond have been working on since since leaving the show and recently, and just talk about some of the work that you've been doing and let some of the folks listening in know about that.
Sure. It mostly started out as kind of a hashtag and a hub for all of the individual work that our cast members and crew members have been doing to support the basically Black Lives Matter movement. And just a way for fans to kind of tune in and follow, all of the different organizations that we are individually passionate about and any of the initiatives that we are working with. And we developed this fundraiser so that we could have an actual event for the fans to kind of gather around. And we ended up donating over $1 million to 9 different organizations. And we're continuing to work with them and trying to, foster change. But it's just a way that all of us can come together and follow each other's work in social justice.
Great, thank you. And that's something we can all search and look at if one was on the internets. Is this correct?
Yeah, you can, any of the social media platforms, if you just do a hashtag Ham for Change, the number 4 change, anyone that's doing a project or, like I said, an initiative or a fundraiser with an organization, if they are part of the Hamilton family, they can just continue their work through that hashtag. And any of our fans, anyone that wants to join can kind of follow along.
Okay, great. Thank you. Voltaire. Hello, sir.
What up, PK?
Very happy to see you. I'm always, man, you make me happy. Voltaire, can you talk about the role of the dance captain? There are a lot of questions about maintaining the show, just from some of the ones that I was looking over. That people might have a sense of what the choreographer does or the associate choreographer, but the role of the dance captain on a show is something to kind of, talk about really, how to maintain the essence of a show like this that happens to have a chance to run for a while. It's obviously a role that you know well, and just wanted to see if you could speak to that.
Yeah, the DC job is like, I don't know. I hated it at first, but I absolutely fell in love with it at the end of it, because to be able to learn everybody's viewpoint and everyone's choreography, and not only learn it, but then learn it from them and what went into making it. It made the show so much more personal, and it made their track make sense. And it's just the other side of it. That's like the part that I didn't like, but it's fine. It just comes with the job, is giving out notes. I'm not one to note people on artistry, but for the sake of uniformity and making things tight and clean, I get it. So yeah, that's kind of the job. We teach other covers their tracks, and we maintain the integrity of the show on stage, on night, every night. So,
you did. You even answered that question more efficiently than I can even ask it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Betsy, can we just
Yes,
take a
sir.
moment and highlight what's going on in the background here? Can you tell us a little? I have lots of questions for you, but now they're basically about drug selfies.
It's my buddy Joe and me. This is the second time my buddy Joe has come to see me on Broadway. The first time was in Memphis the musical, and then he came to see me again in Hamilton, so I needed to make sure that we got a picture together. And so we did. He didn't really know about it though, but at least he's looking at the camera.
He totally is. Betsy, can you, I had a question from Carson in Tennessee, who had a question about the importance that the federal government plays in expanding their funding for arts and education programs. And obviously you do many things very well. Wanted to see if there was a way that you've connected to that, and if you can speak to the essentialness of those programs and what you think they give to the young folks that are going to be the next generation.
They give the world to the young folks who are going to be the next generation. The arts communities in general, and I'm not talking about arts as a business, I'm talking about arts as a community, the thing you obtain when you are young by being exposed to, drama club in high school or choir or band or whatever. Those are the things that shape you as you go through adulthood. And a lot of the times those arts communities are safe places where young people don't necessarily have that safety at home. They have a community in which they can be free to express themselves and be who they are as a person, and they're accepted, because the arts is creativity. The arts needs people who don't think like everyone else. And artists are the people that set the tone for the country. We are the mirror that gets held up to show what is happening in the world. And I remember even thinking, like, back to 2016, when Trump was winning this election by electoral votes, not the popular vote, that I figured every artist, if he won, every artist was going to turn and aim all of their work at his presidency and his administration and the crap they're pulling right and left. And I think all of us here on the Zoom call have done exactly that as well. We've all really, really dug in and become activists, and we would not have done that without art.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Betsy. Carly. Hello,
Yes.
Carly.
Hi.
Carly, there's a question from Mara in Ohio, who had a question that came up from some other people as well, which is, if you had to choose something else to do, if in here we're obviously faced with it, obviously there's a relevance and a resonance there, sort of how you define yourself outside of the art, and if you were forced to live in a world where you couldn't do this thing, where do you think you'd find yourself? What was it that you think you might be doing?
I mean, this is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, just because of where we are. Obviously the entertainment industry has taken a huge hit due to the pandemic. Ever since I was a little girl, really wanted to get into the fashion industry. It's something I've always been very passionate about. However, I find that I've been gravitating towards real estate lately. Morgan and I text about this pretty often. We're always on Street Easy late at night, browsing the latest listings. And so I think potentially something in the real estate industry. Yeah.
If a box of swag from Street Easy shows up at your place tomorrow, I just want to say nothing to do with it. Oh, let's see. I like goldfish and sweet tarts and what are some other things? Thanks, Carl. So Neil Haskell.
Hey, Tommy, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. I first got to know you. You were in the show Bring It On with some of our pals here. And then we're obviously one of the original company members. started off stage and then moved on stage for the Broadway company. And then up until recently, before we were not able to gather and perform, been playing the role of the king on the road. So you obviously, as you spent a lot of time with this one particular show in various places. And there were a lot of questions that I got about people asking for, about the relationship that we have to the work, both in New York and outside of New York, and some of the distinctions that exist there. If you could speak to that.
It's pretty amazing when you take this show on the road, because you're no longer performing in the same house, in the Richard Rodgers, which has about 1,300 seats. You're now performing in huge houses around the country that have 2,000, 2,500 seats, and they're still full every single night. And it's just been like an incredible journey. As you said, I started off stage with the show, and I feel like I've been able to work my way around in this company and be able to do everything that I came in that I wanted to be able to do. I wanted to play all the parts that I covered. I wanted to play King George, and I've been able to make that transition. And doing it on the road, you get to meet everybody around the country who's been excited about the show, who hasn't gotten an opportunity to see the show. And now, hopefully, if the tour starts back up at some point, all the people who have wanted to see the show now have seen it on Disney Plus and will now come to see it live for like the first time, and there'll be a whole new energy about it. And it's just going to be really, really, really cool.
I really timed that water drink wrong. Sorry about that, America. I was like, I know, I'll sneak. Oh, God.
If I would have been able to see you, I would have, fixed that.
I know. We'll get them tomorrow, Neil. Don't worry about it. David. Hello, sir.
Sir.
Good to be seen.
What's going on?
I'm going to try to see if I can ask a question that's maybe you would enjoy.
All right.
So, David, we got to know each other a little bit before you joined the show and came to New York to perform it on Broadway. So I wanted there's a question from Sammy in California. If you didn't know, David is also from California. There it is. So you and I had a lot of conversations about your relationship to Broadway before you first performed on Broadway, which I wanted you to speak to. Mm-hmm. And Sammy also talked about the very first time you got to perform Hamilton. And I remember having a conversation with you. We did 117 shows, I think, downtown, but I remember your very first show on Broadway. And so just think about what your perception of Broadway was initially, and then what that first show was like, if you wouldn't mind speaking to that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have any Broadway aspirations. And so I think, and I sort of assumed you guys would replace me by the time the show got there. So I was just kind of going through it. And sometimes my life feels to me like a series of trapdoors that I've just kind of fallen through. And then there we are. But that first show on Broadway, because you know me, Tommy, I don't really be tripping a lot of times about things. And then that show, I got really emotional before we went out, because all of a sudden, my mom, my parents, like all of the sort of support and work that had gone into just keeping me alive, right, sort of came rushing into my mind. And then to look around and be like, oh, this is a real moment, and it's involved so many people who aren't me. And that was kind of what was going through my head before we went on. I was really emotional. And then very quickly, Oak did something hilarious, and Lin freestyled with me backstage. And I remembered my favorite thing about being on Broadway is that it is exactly the same as every other play you've ever done. And so getting to have both of those things in the same night was really gratifying for me.
Yeah, I remember talking to you, might have been an intermission of that first show. And you sort of said you came out for the opening number, and then just, you're not sure what happened for a little while. Like, it's like there was a period of time that you were sort of out of your body.
Yeah.
Do you remember how loud? Like, it was so
loud.
Like, it was so loud.
It was so loud. And yeah, it was crazy loud. It was crazy loud. And then Lin entered and it got crazy louder. And then I was gone for a minute. And and then Oak whispered something dumb to me that I won't repeat. And then we were back in it. But yeah, it was wild, and it was wild, and sort of every night was wild. I mean, y'all remember, it was a damn concert every night, and it just got wilder. So
thank you, sir. Shots from the Grammy. Mr. Miranda, am I pronouncing that right? Okay.
Exactly right. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be seen. So Lynn, there were a few questions for you, and I looked at them all. There were 4 questions for me, by the way. They were all the same thing. How attractive is Lin in person? Does he really smell that nice? And is it hard to direct a genius? Is it hard to direct your friend who's also really, really smart? America, I'd like to be here to say, it's not that hard. Lin, we're back. So
we're back,
here we are
baby.
towards the end of this night. We've got a couple more surprises after this, and then we're gonna let everyone go back to their lives. But one of the things that's been so astounding about the response to this event is that over 100,000 donors signed up and gave whatever it is that they could. And between 45 and 50% of those donors were first-time donors. And so much of this moment right now is about how do we all feel engaged with the process? How do we feel like it's also about us? And if you can turn a first-time donor into a first-time voter, right, then all of a sudden it feels like you're having a conversation where we're engaged in our citizenry and what it means to be a citizen. Can you talk about your first-time voting? I don't know if you have a recollection of that. You've obviously been around politics with your pops, but if you could speak to that.
Yeah, voting. I mean, I grew up in a weird house. My dad was, my dad grew up on an island where he was an American citizen, but was not allowed to vote in these elections. So as soon as he moved here from Puerto Rico, voting got real serious. And I remember blowing out the birthday candles on my 18th birthday and filling out my voter registration form next to the cake. So it was deep in our house. But even before that, I remember my mom picking me up from school and taking me to our local library on the way home, where our local library had magically turned into a voting place. And suddenly there were these booths that looked like they were from another century, and they were the old, sometimes you have like comic book nerds like sort of waxing nostalgic about die-cast metal toys. Like I remember like the giant, I got to pull the lever on the vote that tabulated the vote. And it was like, it was enormous to me. I was a child. And, my mom would make her choices on the little levers, and then I got to pull the vote that, pull the lever that, and it was a very special, like it was very special watching my local library be transformed and then getting to pull the final baton for my mom's vote every year, not just every 4 years, but we were an every year voting family. So it's always been really special, and I'm excited that so many people are going to experience that for the first time in this election.
Very good, sir. I think we've done it. I think we've come to the end of this part.
Hey,
how about that? Tubby just really cutting through there. All right, someone's gonna hopefully take me away from this crowd. So I'm just gonna wait here.
I think I have the honor to do that. Thank you to everybody in our incredible company for answering those questions. Thank you to all of you who are with us all over this country and for donating and being a part of this, and for all you're doing to help this campaign and our country. 18 days. We have one shot to take back our democracy, and we have 18 days to do it. We need to make every one of them count. We owe it to ourselves and to each other. I know there are a lot of young people tuning into this event, and for you, I have a really simple message. If young people didn't believe in their power to create change, our country wouldn't exist. Hamilton was a teenager when the revolution began. John Lewis was 23 when he spoke at the March on Washington. Marsha P. Johnson was 23 at Stonewall. History is full of young people fighting for the more perfect union our founding fathers promised but never fully realized. So in this moment, we are counting on you so much. At the end of Hamilton, Eliza asks, When my time is up, have I done enough? Actually, Pippa sings it, and it's way better than I could ever sing it. When this election is over, we will ask ourselves the same question. Did we do enough? Let's make sure our answer is a resounding yes. Let's not just raise our glasses to freedom, let's raise our voices to it too. Let's show up to the voting booth for Joe Biden in the kind of numbers that will make this election one for the history books. But first, we have a little song for you.
Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years.
Two Virginians and an immigrant walk into a room diametrically opposed foes. They emerge with a compromise, having opened doors that were previously closed. Bros, the immigrant emerges with unprecedented financial power, a system he can shape however he wants. The Virginians emerge with the nation's capital, and here's the pièce de résistance. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the game is played, the art of the trade, how the sausage gets made. We just assume that it happened, but no one else is in the room where it happens.
Alexander was on Washington's doorstep one day in distress and disarray. Alexander said, "I've nowhere else to turn," and basically begged me to join the fray. I approached Madison and said, "I know you hate him, but let's hear what he has to say." I arranged the meeting. I arranged the menu, the venue, the seating.
What? No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the parties get to yes, the pieces that are sacrificed to every game of chess. We just assume that it happens, but no one else is in the room where it happens. Meanwhile, Madison's grappling with the fact that not every issue can be settled by committee. Meanwhile, Congress is fighting over where to put the capital. It isn't pretty. The Jefferson approaches with a dinner and invite. Madison responds with Virginian insight.
Maybe we can solve one problem with another and win a victory for the Southerners. In other words, a quid pro quo.
I suppose.
Wouldn't you like to work a little closer to home?
Actually, I would.
Well, I propose the Potomac.
And you'll provide him his vote?
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Let's go.
No. What else was in the room where it happened? The room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. My God, in God we trust, but we never really know what got discussed. Click, boom, and it happened. And no one else was in the room where it happened. Alexander Hamilton. What did they say to you to get you to show New York City down the river? Alexander Hamilton. Washington knew about the dinner, was the presidential pressure to deliver? Alexander Hamilton. Or did you know even then it doesn't matter where you put the U.S. capital?
Because we all have the banks, we're in the same spot.
You got more than you gave.
And I wanted what I got. When you got skin in the game, stay in the game. But you don't get a win unless you play in the game. Oh, you get love for it, you get hate for it. You get nothing if you wait for it, wait for it, wait. God help and forgive me. I want to build something that's gonna outlive me.
What do you want, girl? What do you want, girl?
If you stand for nothing, girl, what do you fight for?
I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens, the room where it happens. The art of the compromise. Hold your nose and close your eyes. We want our leaders to save the day. We don't get a say in what they trade away. We dream of a brand new start, but we dream in the dark for the most part.
When we vote, things change. When we vote, things get better. When we vote, we address the need for all people to be treated with dignity and respect in our country.
Thank you. Go vote.
Go vote.
Go vote, y'all.
Vote like a mother, vote like a mother.